Have you seen people doing things which are often difficult or very hard for them to manage? Examples that come to mind is an average student trying to enter medical school, or people joining social groups where there is lavish spending of money and you being compelled to do the same, even though sometimes it burns a deep hole in your pocket. People who run small tuck shops in businesses and believe that they can do far more, opening several only to realize that they have no ability to cope. Well, there's a theme in all the three that I mentioned, and that is biting off more than we can chew. Welcome. Welcome to today's episode of how not to bite off more than we can chew. But there are reasons people do that. In the first, for example, the average student wants to prove to himself an ability which actually, unfortunately, doesn't exist. Accepting limitations is hard for most of us. Many don't understand that abilities or inabilities do not define us, and they constantly strive to overcome their liabilities. I've learned that wisdom is about building on our strengths, not trying to overcome our liabilities. But the average student in denial does not want to face his limitations and then chooses to advent into medical school, which obviously he finds it hard to get into. In the second example of spending lavishly, it's not that you may not have the money, but maybe you've never sat with yourself and asked yourself, what is it that you want? You may not want to spend the money in the same way that your social group does. No offense to them, but you find yourself having very different values, having very different ideas of life. But now, having joined the group, so to speak, you feel trapped and you feel compelled. In the third example of trying to expand a business, you are constantly trying to prove something to yourself, that you're far more able, far more accomplished. You do not realize that life is actually to be lived for fun and fulfillment, but you constantly sometimes torture yourself wanting to constantly challenge yourself to the next level. These are some reasons. Of course, there could be many more. But now, what do we do so that we don't bite off more than we can chew? In the first example, accepting limitations. That means the student accepts his or her below averageness in certain facets and decides not to overcome his liabilities and instead work on his strengths. In the second, not choosing to enter a social group who has no problem spending the way they spend. Not because you don't have the money to spend, but many a time because you're not aligned with their ideologies or the value systems that they may subscribe to, which means sitting with yourself, asking who you are, what you prefer, what you want in life, and accordingly being a little more discerning and asserting whether you want to socially hang out with a certain set of people. In the third, please remind yourself that at the end of the day, what is the goal of life? And what are you really trying to showcase or prove to yourself? That challenges make you far more accomplished, but the goal of life is not proving to oneself how accomplished one has to be and always has to struggle and deal with burdens. The goal of life is to have fun, to be at peace and to be at ease. If, according to me, you understand these three facets, that is, working on your strengths, not belonging to a set of people who don't align possibly as much with you and your value systems, and you go out living life so that it brings you joy, peace and happiness, maybe you won't bite off more than you can chew. If you like what you hear, please do hit the like button. Please do share my video and of course continue to write to me at barkha@barkhachulani.com. Till next week, it's goodbye and thank you.